Catherine of Aragon was the first wife of King Henry VIII of England. Catherine of Aragon was a princess of royal blood. She was a loyal, humble, stubborn, and settled woman. She was the daughter of the great King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. Like other royal princesses in the Tudor period, a political marriage was arranged for her. She was betrothed to Arthur, who was the eldest son of the Tudor King of England, King Edward VII. Princess Catherine was sent to England when she was very young and was married to Arthur, Prince of Wales. Prince Arthur died 6 months later. The marriage of Catherine to Prince Arthur was said to have never been consummated, and a dispensation was therefore given by the Pope, allowing Catherine to become engaged to the brother of a dead husband, Prince Henry. Catherine was 17 years old and Prince Henry was just 12. Prince Henry then became king when he was 18 years old and married 23-year-old Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon was truly in love with her husband, and the young King Henry VIII was clearly happy with his marriage to this important Spanish princess. Their early years of marriage were happy, but Queen Catherine of Aragon suffered repeated miscarriages. Only one child survived, a daughter who would become Queen Mary I of England. King Henry VIII became increasingly unhappy with his marriage. He had had a couple of affairs. Catherine of Aragon was banished from court. Queen Catherine of Aragon was moved around different castles in England and separated from her daughter Mary. Due to her obstinate refusal to accept her annulment of her marriage, her daughter Mary was declared illegitimate and lost the title of princess. On 7 January 1536, Queen Catherine of Aragon died at Kimbleton Castle when she was 50. Catherine is 40 years old. She's very loyal to God and hasn't had sex before marriage to show her loyalty. But Catherine is divorced because her man was not loyal. Their child, Mary, gets a very severe education and therefore is sent to a monastery to make sure she isn't able to contact her father. Ismail is her adopted child. He's adopted because Catherine wants to help children in need. She's used to travel to 4 countries to help out the poor children, and she raises funds to raise schools in these countries to educate the children. She's very religious and visits the church every single day and prays at least 3 times a day. She tries to convince her neighborhood to turn to God and therefore goes around in the neighborhood to tell the story of God.
Hi, Jesus is alive. Look, he's alive.
No,
He's alive. Wait, God will punish you.
They are not sure when Anne Boleyn was born. It could be 1501, but it could also be 1507. The sources don't agree about her birth date. She died the 19th May 1536. She died very young because she was executed. She was the Queen of England from 1533 to 1536 and the second wife of Henry VIII of England. Anne was the daughter of Thomas Boleyn, 1st Earl of Wiltshire, and his wife, Elizabeth Boleyn, Countess of Wiltshire. At court, she was a maid of honor to Henry VIII's queen, Catherine of Aragon. Anne soon becomes the most wanted treasure of Henry. He was willing to do everything to end his marriage to Catherine, so he could marry Anne and she would bear a lot of sons for him. After a long process, Anne and Henry get married, and as they are married, Anne also is crowned as the Queen of England. Unfortunately, Anne gave birth to a daughter, and not to a son as she promised. Their first daughter, Elizabeth I of England, would later become the most important Queen of England. 3 miscarriages later, and Henry was already pursuing another treasure, Jane Seymour. To get rid of Anne, Henry had her investigated for high treason. She was arrested and sent to the Tower of London, where she was found guilty. She was executed on 19th May 1536. Today, Anne Boleyn would be only 28 years old, and she would already have a big career. She works with politics because she knows how to control people. She has a lot of influence on people and isn't afraid to use this. She loves to manipulate and knows this will get her what she wants. She has a very busy life and doesn't have much time to think about her own problems. But because of her manipulating nature, she has gained a lot of enemies and finds herself being threatened a lot of times. Eventually, she was brutally murdered when she was 33 years old, leaving behind to follow her up in her career. Her daughter gained more power than her mother could ever wish for. This proves that Elizabeth was a lot more powerful than her, and she was certain to take revenge for her mother, Anne.
Jane Seymour lived from the 10th of October 1508 to the 24th of October 1537. She was Queen of England as the third wife of King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII was married to her at the Palace of Whitehall on the 30th of May 1536, just 11 days after Anne Boleyn's execution. In early 1537 she became pregnant. She gave birth to a son, the future King Edward VI, on 12th of October 1537 at Hampton Court Palace. She died of postnatal complications less than 2 weeks after the birth of her only child, probably because the baby was not well positioned. Jane Seymour died on the 24th of October 1537 at Hampton Court Palace at Kingston upon Thames in London. Jane Seymour is 29 years old. She's a middle-class woman and a simple housewife. She has dark brown hair and blue eyes. Jane is not very tall with an average posture. Jane has a modest personality and is very loyal to her husband. She's not very beautiful but a fairness. Jane is married to Henry for 1 year now. He is the manager of a big company named Apple. They have one son together named Edward. He's just born, a little baby loved by everyone. Now she's a little bit ill because the baby wasn't well positioned in her uterus. Family is important to her, and her best friend is Mary. Jane is Catholic, so she goes to church every Sunday. Jane, do you have some time to answer some questions,
No,
please?
sorry, I have a lot of things to do and don't have time.
Oh, okay.
Anne Buckley grew up in a strict Catholic family. At the age of 12, Anne was betrothed to Francis, but due to the young age, the betrothing was cancelled. Almost 10 years later, the wedding discussions from her marriage with Henry VIII went full swing. The marriage took place because the king had sent a painter to the household to paint both the sisters, Anne and her younger sister. Anne had no education and wasn't culture educated, but she was good in needlework and was considered gentle, thus a perfect match for Henry. Then, when Henry finally got to see his future bride, he was deeply disappointed with her appearance and also used it as a reason for divorce. Though this was not possible due to the alliance with Germany, and for this reason Anne and Henry also never consummated their marriage. Not much later, Anne was ordered to leave court, hearing that her husband wanted to reconsider marriage. After this, they both agreed on the annulment of the marriage. After the annulment, Anne received a lot of properties and became good friends with the king, visiting often. She died at the age of 41 due to cancer and was buried in the Westminster Abbey.
She's a very wealthy woman, having gotten a lot of money out of her last divorce. She's ugly but feels like a princess, bathing in luxury and wealth. People around her act as she's a very important because she has a lot of money and therefore much respect. On her face, people are very nice, but behind her back, she's the most talked about subject. She has no shame and therefore doesn't feel any shame to show off her wealth. She has had a lot of men after her divorce, but doesn't feel the need to make any commitments because she fears they might take away her wealth. She doesn't feel any connection with any religion and lives life on the moment.
Oh, she's so stupid. She brought me this ring. She's a bit. She's ugly.
Catherine Howard was the fifth wife of King Henry VIII of England. She was an English Catholic lady and she lived from 1521 till 1542. She was the daughter of John Seymour and Margaret Wentworth. She was a member of the powerful Howard dynasty, but also a cousin of Anne Boleyn and a niece of Duke Norfolk. She married King Henry VIII on the 28th of July 1540 and was executed on the 13th of February 1542.
The motto chosen by Catherine Howard was no other will but his. The character of Catherine Howard was a very kind, flirtatious, impetuous, ramicious, and foolish lady. Her appearance was young, pretty, and curvaceous. Catherine Howard was 30 years younger than King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII met his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, at the English court, where she was a lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves. She did not love the king, but she did love the fine clothing and all the jewels he showered on her. The marriage was manipulated once again by the Howard family. Catherine Howard was the cousin of Anne Boleyn, and by a terrible twist of fate, both married the same man, King Henry VIII, and both were executed by beheading.
Catherine is a 17-year-old high school student who earns money by sleeping with men. She buys expensive clothes with the money she earns and isn't very loyal to anyone. She's very popular in school, especially among the guys, but she skips school a lot and doesn't get good grades. She lies to everyone to get what she wants, and she has ran away from home to avoid any confrontations. She likes to wear revealing clothes and loves to wear lots of makeup. This is mostly because she wants to become a model, trying to reach this goal by doing amateurish photo shoots to gain experience.
Catherine Parr was the sixth and last wife of King Henry VIII. She was already twice widowed and childless when they wed in 1543. She was also in love with Thomas Seymour, the brother of Henry's third Queen Jane. But the king's will was slow, and Catherine bowed to his demands with grace. She was an admirable wife to Henry and a loving stepmother to his two youngest children, Elizabeth and Edward. She was also the most intellectual of Henry's wives, caught up in the turbulent religious climate of the times. And it was this passionate interest in theology which nearly ended her life. For the king was old and sickly, but still capable of destroying those closest to him. Catherine saved herself and earned Henry's respect in order to be appointed regent of England during his military campaign in Bologna. Upon his death in 1547, she married Seymour with indecent haste, the only one of four husbands she had chosen herself. Catherine's Parr life was always one of duty and kindness. She left behind a formidable tradition of scholarship and religious devotion, as evidenced by her own books. The great tragedy of her life was that, when finally able to marry for love, her happiness was all too brief. She's 40 years old. She is depressed because all her previous marriages failed because her husbands have found an early death. She wasn't able to get a child and therefore finds herself in a deep depression. She has tried to kill herself multiple times, but failed every single time, causing her depression only to get worse. She cries every day and doesn't feel like going out in public. She was a very good and happy woman before all this drama, and longed for the old days where she could feel genuinely happy with her life.
How are you today?
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.